Hello dear friends, we are together with the problem session 6, the last problem session of this academic year, and it's about the price discrimination and also the monopolistic competition. We have 4 questions. Let's start with the first one. Question 1 asks, the industry demand curve for a particular market is given as Q equal to 1800 minus 200p, and the industry exhibits constant long-run average cost at all level of output regardless of the market structure, and this long-run average cost is given as $1.50 per unit of output. The question is, calculate the market output, calculate the profit maximizing level of output, price, consumer surplus, and producer surplus. For each the scenarios below, compare the economic efficiency of each possibility. We will find all of these 4, if possible, of course, for at question A, for perfect competition, perfectly competitive market. For pure monopoly, there is one seller of the market, pure monopoly, and it produces the good which has not close substitutes. And first degree price discrimination. Okay, now let's start with to find the inverse demand function, that is the normal demand, which is written as Q equal to. Now we will find the inverse demand because we need it to find the marginal revenue in terms of Q. So the inverse demand function will be 200p equal to 1800 minus Q, and p equal to 9 minus 1 over 200 Q. That is our inverse demand function. Inverse demand function. And total revenue in that case, in terms of Q as a function of the level of output, is price times quantity, So it is, the total revenue is 9Q minus 1 over 200 Q squared. Just multiply that inverse demand by Q again. And to find the marginal revenue, we need to derive the total revenue function for Q, which is 9 minus 1 over 100 Q. Türevini aldık. Marginal revenue'yu bulduk. Now we need to equalize it, or we need to equalize it to marginal cost for pure monopoly. So we need marginal cost function, which is not given in the question, but we have long run average cost function. So we can find long run total cost, which is Q times long run average cost. That is the unit cost of production. When you multiply it with the units, the number of units with Q, you will get the total cost. So the total cost function in that case 1.50 Q. So the long run marginal cost is the first derivative of the long run total cost function for Q, which is 1.50. So if the long run average cost is constant, is a single number like this question, so you can conclude that always it's equal to the marginal cost. Let's draw what we found and then find the solutions. So here quantity and here price. We have a negatively sloped demand function, the horizontal interception. If P is 0, then Q is 1800, and if Q is 0, P is 9. in this demand function, or inverse demand, just the same. And this is demand and average revenue, and also marginal revenue we will add, which is 9 minus 1 over 100Q. If Q is 0, marginal revenue is 9. Start from the same point, and the horizontal interception is just the middle of the demand function, 900. That is the marginal revenue, and it is given a horizontal fixed long run average cost and long run marginal cost, which is equal to 1.50. Now, for the first question, question A, it is asked the profit maximizing level of output and price for perfectly competitive market. Please remember, for perfect competition, profit maximization condition is equal to price equal to marginal cost. So price is determined on the demand function, and this is the linear and horizontal marginal cost. So that point where price equal to marginal cost, let's say this is point A because it's question A, and let's find it. Let's equalize the inverse demand, 9 minus 1 over 200Q equal to 1.50. So you will get the competitive output from here as 1,500 here. The competitive output is 1,500. And what is more, the price, competitive price, will just equal to marginal cost, long run marginal cost, which is $1.50. And also we need to find, it's asked, consumer surplus and producer surplus. Here the consumer surplus is just the total area above the equilibrium price or the profit maximizing price for competitive market, which is 1.50. So the consumer surplus will be this red area. This is consumer surplus for perfect competition. So it is the consumer surplus for perfect competition is base 1,500 times height 9 minus 1.50 over 2, which is çarpalım hemen, sonucu bulmadan geldim ama 1500 çarpı 7,5 bölü 2, 5625. So consumer surplus is 5,625. What about producer surplus? It is 0 because the firm have the horizontal long run marginal cost. It's not possible to put a price lower than 1.50. So there is no producer surplus for this case, for perfect competition, of course. In that case, the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus, which give us the welfare in the market, will be just equal to the consumer surplus, which is 5,625. Now let's turn to the question B. What will happen if this market is worked as the monopoly, pure monopoly? The question B is the pure monopoly. For pure monopoly, the profit maximization condition is the marginal revenue must equal to the marginal cost. So we will equalize marginal revenue to the marginal, the constant marginal cost, the marginal revenue, marginal cost, which is point B, because it's question B. Let's equalize 9 minus 001Q equal to 1.50. from here you will get the monopolistic profit maximizing output is 750. So this point is 750. Just half of the competitive output. Geçen hafta onunla ilgili bir soru çözmüştük değil mi? Eğer sabit bir average cost ve marginal cost varsa tam yarısı kadar üretim yapıyordu. Hatta karı da deadweight loss'un yarısı kadar oluyordu diye bir örnek çözmüştük. Proof'a dayalı bir örnek çözmüştük geçen hafta. Tam yarısı kadar üretim yapıyor dolayısıyla. But the price of course will be higher than 1.50. To find the price, we will insert that value into the inverse demand function. So the monopolistic price will be 9 minus 1 over 200 times 750. So it is 6.25 galiba ama onu da bir check edelim. 750 bölü 200 5.25. So monopolistic price is 5.25. So we are just going from profit maximizing level of output to the demand function here, which is 5.25 in that case. So now the consumer surplus and the producer surplus just changes. Here the price, because the price is 5.25, the consumer surplus for the monopoly is this shaded area. This is consumer surplus for monopoly. And the price below the 5.25 and between 1.50, that shaded area, here this area, is the producer surplus for monopoly. Let's find the sum of consumer and producer surplus to compare the situation with the perfect competition. Now, let's find the consumer surplus at first. Consumer surplus is base 750 times height 9 minus 5.25 over 2, which is, let's find 9 minus 5.25 times 750 over 2, which is 1406.25. Şöyle devam edelim. Buraya devam ediyor. And let's say consumer surplus in monopoly and producer surplus in monopoly. It is this rectangular area, which is 5.25 minus 1.50 times 750, which is 5.25 minus 1.50 times 750, 2000, which is 2812.5. So sum of consumer surplus of monopoly and producer surplus of monopoly in that case will be lower than we are expecting. It will be lower than the sum of consumer and producer surplus in the perfectly competitive market, which is 1406 artı 2812 4218.75, which is, please compare this to, which is lower than the sum of consumer and producer surplus in perfectly competitive market. So because the difference between these two is the deadweight loss, so that part will be the deadweight loss because of the monopolistic behavior. Now let's come to the situation in the first degree price discrimination. Şunu yukarı doğru bitirelim. In question C, the firm is again the monopoly, but he is working with the first degree price discrimination, which means that we are assuming that the monopolist knows all the reservation prices in the market and put that prices or apply these prices for each of the customers they have. So in that case, please remember the first degree price discrimination. There will be no one single price. There are lots of prices from 9 to 150, no single price. But the level of output, the profit maximizing level of output of the firm will be determined where price equal to marginal cost. Firma eğer tüm müşterilerinin, bu malı talep eden kişilerin rezervasyon fiyatlarını, yani bu mal için ödemeye razı oldukları en yüksek fiyatı biliyorsa, böyle bir varsayımda bulunuyoruz. Bunun olduğu durumda ancak yapılabiliyor birinci derece fiyat farklılaştırması. O zaman her bir müşteriye ayrı ayrı fiyat uyguluyor ve bunu artık burada durdurma, üretimini burada durdurma gereksinimi duymuyor. Üretimini çünkü arttırdıkça her bir tüketiciden daha farklı fiyat almaya devam edecek ve bu şekilde de consumer surplus'ın tamamını ele geçirecek demiştik. Dolayısıyla da ne kadar üretim yapacak o zaman? First degree price discrimination'da nasıl diyelim buna? First degree price discrimination için QF diyelim. Ne kadar üretim yapacak? Tam rekabet üretimi kadar competitive output'a eşit bir üretim yapacak. But the distribution of the consumer and producer surplus is just changing. All of the consumer surplus is earned by the producer in that case. There will be no consumer surplus in the market. All of the consumer surplus is earned by the monopolist. So we have found before the consumer surplus as 5,625. So this will be earned by the monopolist who applies first degree price discrimination. So this is also the profit of this monopolist, we can say. So the sum of the consumer and producer surplus is again independent from the distribution, 5,625 for the first degree price discrimination. So let's compare the three market types in that case. In the perfect competition, which is the best for the consumers, the sum of consumer and producer surplus is this. Also, we can say that deadweight loss is 0. There is no deadweight loss. Here we have a positive deadweight loss, that area or the difference between these two numbers. And here also the deadweight loss is 0. So we can say that the first degree price discrimination is as effective just as the perfect competitive market because there is no deadweight loss in the market. But pure monopoly among these three market types is the worst one for the consumers, for the market also. Perfect tam rekabet piyasasında tüketici için en iyi durum olduğunu söylemiştik. Tüketiciler marjinal maliyete eşit bir fiyat, tek bir single price'tan yararlanıyorlar. 1.50'den bu örnek için bu malı alıyorlar ve dolayısıyla deadweight loss diye bir şey söz konusu değil. Monopolde öyle değil. fiyatlandırma uygulayan, yani fiyat farklılaştırması yapmayan bir monopol için, tek bir fiyat uygulayan monopol için fiyatı pek tabii ki marjinal maliyetin üzerinde belirliyor. 5.25 olarak belirledi bizim örneğimizde. Bu durumda bir deadweight loss oluşmasına neden oluyor. First degree price discrimination aslında perfect competitive market kadar etkin ama deadweight loss olmamasından, sıfır olmasından bu sonucu çıkartıyoruz. Ama tabii ki distribution surplus'ın taraflar arasındaki dağılımı tam perfectly competitive'in tam tersi. Burada da tüm rant alanının tamamı monopol tarafından ele geçiriliyor. Her bir kişiye ayrı ayrı fiyat uygulamak suretiyle. Okay, that was the first question.